Hello everyone and welcome to the video. Thank you so much for choosing to tune into this, and I hope you're all doing really well. I know I am after just kind of seeing some news from Frontier, which I'll run through with you now. Obviously we've all been kind of dying to hear what the next update slash DLC will be. We've also been kind of waiting for a while to hear what they've been up to, because it's kind of all been quiet on the Western Front, hasn't it really? But they have revealed today in a forum post that they are bringing Animal Talks to Planet Zoo, and that will be part of a free update to the base game, which I think is the right decision. So I'll quickly go over their forum post. So they say, over the next few weeks we'll be revealing what they have been working on since Planet Zoo Australia pack, and they can't wait to kind of share that with us. Today they wanted to take the opportunity to tell us about a new feature the team have been working on, which will be added into the base game of Planet Zoo for free, and we'll think you'll all be excited for Animal Talks. Now I think that's probably the right decision to include it as a free kind of update to the game, into the base game. Because as they go on to say, Animal Talks are kind of staples of zoo life, aren't they? When was the last time you went to a zoo and there wasn't a schedule of Animal Talks at some point in the day? So I think it's the right decision not to include it as part of a paid DLC, because I think if you're not really one to buy DLC, although I don't know why you wouldn't with this game, then you'd be missing out on kind of a key feature, wouldn't you really? So they say, Animal Talks are a staple activity in zoos where educators share insight into animals housed at their zoos and some more information about conservation efforts. Like in real life, we wanted these Animal Talks to benefit both your guests and your zoo. Let's get into the detail about how they all work, so you can get an idea of how to use them in Planet Zoo. So when you'd like to set up an area for a talk to happen, you need to place an animal point. These points need to be placed near a habitat barrier or an exhibit to work correctly. They function similarly to other educational items and need to be in range of what they are educating the guests about. Make sure you provide enough space on the paths for the animal talks, as once guests join to speculate, they can take up a fair bit of room on the path, but who can blame them? And exactly who can blame them? I always enjoy watching these the talks and the shows at zoos. I think they're always really interesting, and they're a bit of fun in the day, aren't they? And kind of help give it a little bit of structure. So it's great that they're bringing this into the game. I kind of already kind of thinking of ideas about how I can use this in, for example, like the Dudley Zoo build, or maybe even the Lapland build, and kind of future zoos on the channel, really. So kind of really looking forward to this. Where are we? It's interesting that they're going to work the same as education boards, so you'll have to put them close to the exhibit, but just say within range, so you won't have to put it. It seems like you won't have to put it exactly right next to the exhibit. You could almost have it like opposite, so people could view the animal and then there'll be someone talking, and have like you could have like a little show area maybe. It'd be really interesting to see how people use this in game. Especially if it's they've kind of mentioned about it being in range, so at least then it seems that you're not going to be limited to having it directly next to the enclosure. You can schedule talks, and if you do it well, you can have one educator take care of multiple talks throughout the park. After guests gather around to watch the animal talk, the educator will commence the session. You'll see some animals also walk over to see what all the commotion is about, and if you're lucky, sometimes to join in. Now that's quite interesting. So I'd be really interested to see how animals actually like interact with these guest talks, these animal talks. Sorry. So, is it a case of just popping over and being a bit nosy, or is something more going to happen there? They don't really go into much detail about how they join in, but it'll be really interesting to see actually how that works in game. If you set the animal talk point up so that the back of it is towards the habitat and there are no obstructions such as water, then the educator may also throw food into the habitat during the talk, depending on the animal species. This will not be available for every animal. Okay, that's interesting as well. The fact that there will be some sort of interaction, at least for some animals, between the talk and the actual animal itself, such as throwing food in. I wonder if ever we do get something such as otters, seals, or sea lions, maybe even penguins, maybe they will be the kind of the some like prime species really for this, because whenever I've gone to, say, for example, Dudley Zoo, they have a sea lion show throughout the day, and what they do is guests are actually invited to, if you've paid a ticket for it, you can actually feed the sea lions, or you can kind of just watch as the keeper talks about the sea lions, who they, their names, the kind of history, some of the, a bit about their personality, um, and then they kind of feed them. So that would be kind of, that's where my mind's going right now. But obviously we don't know if we're going to get animals such as those in the park, but in the game, sorry. But it'd be interesting to see how which animals these educators can interact with and throw food to. So that's going to be another really interesting kind of element to the zoos, and something which I think will just help break it up, so it's not just people walking around a zoo aimlessly kind of. I think this is going to be a really interesting element to zoos, and I think for some builds it'll be kind of like a key element kind of to build into it. So really looking forward to this. With the animal talks comes a new information panel. Each talk can be set up for one habitat or exhibit and one species of animal. Through this panel you will be able to enable and disable animal talk points, pick an animal species for the talk, pick a month to schedule the talk if it will take place annually, assign an educator to the animal talk point, assign the animal talk point to a work zone, select music, which will play while the talk is not in use, and you'll be able to see the placement of the animal talk points, and that will allow you to allow the educator to throw food in. There'll also be a new management tab for animal talks in this tab, which you'll be able to see the list of animal talks, their location, the habitat they're assigned to, the assigned animal species, the schedule, and the work zone. So that's going to be really interesting kind of information to kind of help you manage that kind of animal talk point, and it'll be interesting to see how that kind of works in game. There are a few things to keep in mind for the animal talks. Educators with higher training will increase the amount of happiness and education that guests receive. That's kind of a given, because I think if you've got a really amazing educator, even in a real life zoo, the more they've got experience of it, the more interesting their talks are. So that's kind of a given, really. This will benefit the zoo through donations. Animal talks will be cancelled if the educator does not turn up within the prep period, which is used to gather around guests or the talk duration. Be mindful of your scheduling, as while one educator can do several talks, you'll need to be careful with your carefully plan to prevent your talks from being cancelled. So obviously if you've got a talk happening at, say, 10 a.m. in the morning on one end of the zoo, but at 11 a.m. at the other end of the zoo, obviously that's not enough time to deliver a talk and get over to that side of the zoo, get people interested in and deliver the talk. So obviously that's not the kind of time frame they're talking about in the forum, but as an example, so that makes total sense, and also adds an element of management to this element of the game. Animal talk points will be disabled if their habitat or animal is invalid, so keep an eye on them while you move animals around your habitats. Again, that's kind of a given, isn't it? We hope you've enjoyed learning about animal talks, and we'll be revealing when you can get your hands on them in-game in just a few weeks' time. We can't wait to show you what else we've been working on, and we're looking forward to ending this year on a high note with you all. to make sure you stay tuned for official channels, blah blah blah. And then just looking at some of the comments, people are really excited for this. A lot of people are saying how amazing this sounds, how exciting it sounds. And I for one can't wait for this to be in game. I think this is going to be a really, really interesting thing to bring into the games. And I suppose for me, I've kind of always thought that a big element missing from Planet Zoo has always been, animal talks, which you see at pretty much every zoo, and also the element of fun. Although it's a zoo, it seems to focus only on education. So maybe this is a sign of things to come, maybe down the road, with maybe entertainers, that sort of thing. I'd love to see that sort of thing being brought in. I know when I used to play Planet Coaster years ago, I used to really enjoy the little mascots that you could assign to an area and have walking around. I think something like that would be amazing. Whether this is like a precursor to that, maybe if this is something that they're thinking about, I have no idea. This is just purely kind of me saying what I'd hope this kind of leads to. And it seems like this would help to bring that element of fun in there a little bit, because that is missing in the game. And I always do enjoy watching and kind of seeing these animal talks in real life zoos. So, from my perspective, that does kind of at least start bringing in that element of fun to Planet Zoo builds. And it'd be really interesting to kind of see what people do with this. I've already got some ideas, and it'll be, as I say, it'll be interesting to see how the animals interact. When a talk is happening, is it just going to be walking over? They've said that they'll be joining in somehow. That'll be interesting to see. And then obviously also seeing the educator also engaging with the animals by throwing them food, which will be really interesting. So yeah, that's kind of what Frontier have said about it. Let me know what you think. Are you excited for this? Have you got ideas already about what you would do with it? Let me know in the comments below. And let me know what you think this will kind of lead to. I mean, I know like Dudley Zoo, they have sea lion talks and things like that, and the keepers feed them and all that sort of stuff. So it'd be interesting to see, what animals come further down the line that will be able to utilize this mechanic in the game. Because for me, I'm thinking sea lions, penguins, otters. Those are the kind of animals I think of when I think of animals being fed at zoos. Whenever I've gone to a zoo and they've had those animals, those are the ones that have the shows. Those are the ones that have the come and watch the sea lions being fed, or penguin feeding time, that sort of thing. So it'll be interesting to see, one, how this works with the animals we currently have, and two, what this means for potential species being brought into the game kind of coming next. I know that a lot of people want kind of marine animals, and people want otters, people want sea lions, people want penguins, especially penguins. I kind of see that all the time on forums and so on. So it'd be interesting to see where this is leading to. And it seems like that actually, although they've been quite quiet since the Australia pack, they have been really busy in the background. So I wasn't expecting really to have this sort of thing being announced at the moment. I was expecting the standard 4 animals and an exhibit, which I know everyone is kind of bored of now. And actually, 4 animals, is it enough per DLC? So kind of excited for this, because I think it signals maybe a change in the direction of the updates and the content we're getting from Frontier for the game. We've had standard reskins of scenery, and a couple of animals and an exhibit animal for a year now, and it seems like actually they've been building up to something that we've just not been aware of, and they've wanted to keep quiet. And maybe they are actually going to go out with a bang for the end, for the end of the year. So yeah, really exciting news. Really exciting, kind of. It's getting the mind racing now. Actually, thinking about what this potentially means for the game. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Let me know, your reaction to this, and I will see you in the next one.